It's water. Coming up this weekend at flyweight, we have the former Octagon champ Teresa Bleda. She's only 21 years old. She's taking on the former LFA flyweight champ Gabriela Fernandez. And when you look at this matchup, Matt, both of these fighters faced oil meets water matchups in their UFC debuts. And why am I saying they're still looking for their UFC win number one? It's because they lost in impressive fashion. And for Teresa Bleda, she had a competitive first round against Natalia Silva. And then in the second round, she started to slow down. And then in the third round, she really slowed down, and she ate that body shot and ended up getting finished. And for Gabi Fernandez, her last time out, she took on Canadian War Machine Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's apparently the heir apparent to the top five. And in that matchup,
like Kurt Angle, it turns out,
Fernandez was one of those fighters that we knew coming into the UFC, a tricky sidewinder. She's really able to get it done with her striking, very, very technical that way. But for Fernandez, her takedown defense wasn't what got her to the dance, and it definitely didn't when she fought Jasudavicius. So both of these women go back into this matchup, and we've seen Fernandez in fights get taken down in the past, only to threaten with her jiu-jitsu and get good submission wins. And for both of these women, it's crazy to see that Fernandez only 10 pro fights and Teresa Bleda only 7 pro fights. They each have, because that's how it would work, 2 former common opponents that they both beat in Caroline Martins and Edna Oliveira. So some wild stuff right there. Obviously, Bleda is one of those fighters that was on the come up as an amateur fighter, as a pro fighter, started her amateur career at 15 years old, and now just 21. Insane. She had that win in the Octagon tournament during the vid, and she was able to get that win over one tricky fighter, Lucia Pudzilova, where takedowns weren't allowed, but Bleda didn't know about that. I don't know, but if you look at it for Bleda, you look at the wins that she had over with Octagon, it really was putting every single ounce of her being into her striking just to get the takedowns. And she is very much a Miranda Maverick type takedown artist of, I'm putting everything I got into the takedown too, in order to get the finish. Gabi Fernandez, fine with playing on the outside, to then try and threaten with some of those submissions to get back up to her feet at times. Kind of similar to somebody that we had debut not that long ago in Muin Gafurov, where I'm going leg lock just to pop myself back up to the feet, or threaten with a triangle. If Fernandez gets it, great. But when I look at a fight like this, it really will be, can Fernandez outlast Bleda and hit her with a big shot? Because Bleda holds her hands really low and walks around with her head right on the center line.
And for Fernandez, she really is going to have to make a lot of use in that position on top, or at least on the feet, because Fernandez is going to be the more high work rate fighter on the outside. And I do think she can make Bleda for some of those amateurist type strikes she does throw, because Bleda's not going to wow you. She's not Yair Rodriguez on the outside throwing things you've never seen before. She is, like you say,
jab, right cross, jab, right cross.
Exactly, and the right cross is a lot behind it because she's trying to close the distance, get her hands around her opponent. So for Fernandez, if she's able to outlast for at least moments on the feet and really get the volume on her side, I could see a lot of judges going with her in this matchup. But that's why I have such a hard time with this fight. It really comes down to what are the judges going to look for? Because if Bleda is able to get a lot of top control, but no submission, maybe no submission accomplished. If she can threaten with a lot of submissions every round, then that's probably enough for her to secure the rounds in the eyes of the judges. But if it's a lot of top pressure, but a lot of Gabi Fernandez throwing a lot of volume on the feet, then I do think it's going to be a difficult fight to judge by the end of it. And that's why I'm really surprised to see. For Bleda, she's 21 years old, so hopefully she can keep on making those improvements. Because, look, if you have the volume of Fernandez with the grappling of Bleda, we're talking about a pretty good fighter at that point. So it really is water versus oil. If you think Bleda can accomplish enough with her takedowns and top control, then you do probably think she's going to go out there and win a decision. But if Fernandez can make her work for a lot of those takedowns, I could see her volume striking, especially in that third round, being really difficult for Bleda to make up for.
And that's it. I mean, for Fernandez, her last time out, Jasudavicius went 4 of 8 on takedown attempts, but had 11 minutes and 31 seconds of control time and brutalized her to the point where it was 3 30-26s on the judges' scorecards. For Bleda, 4-0 as a pro against Brazilian fighters, and then we kind of go into it and we talk about those common opponents. For Bleda, if you look at it, Edna Oliveira, she beats her by armbar. If you look at it for Fernandez, she kept hitting her to the body. She throws a body kick. Oliveira kind of drops, and then she taps due to the strike. Yeah. So it was wild to see that one. If you look at it for Fernandez, she wins her LFA belt against Caroline Martins, who Bleda was able to fight and end up beating her by decision. And if you look at it for Bleda, when she ended up over on the Dana White's Contender Series. She's taking on Nayata Maya, and in that fight, she does win by decision. She dominated pretty well all 15 minutes of the fight. She drops Maya later on in that one. It's a clinch position, knee to the body. Maya drops like a sack of potatoes. And if you do consider it for both of these women, good in the clinch, so I'm eager to see that position in this fight to see, hey, is it going to open up the takedowns of Bleda? Does it accentuate the striking of either one of these women? Because, again, when you do consider it, it is oil meets water, but there are some in-betweens that you definitely have to watch out for. So if you have a look at this one, Bleda is favored to get the win. We have a look at the Tapology votes. Matt, surprise us there to you. I think the fans are in buy low mode with Gabby Fernandez.
Probably.
I'm going to say over under 85% Bleda.
85's high, but I'll say over.
I'm going to say over. It's under. 617 total votes, 83% Bleda, 89% by decision. For the 17% that are Fernandez, 75% by decision. And again, eager to see Bleda with the cardio, because when you watch her on Contender Series, the commentary team was bullish on her striking, which was weird. She dominated the fight, and she's not necessarily known as a striker. And if you look at it for Fernandez, we just want to see that polished striker that we saw when she was fighting in Brazil and with the LFA in Brazil. So when it comes down to this one, I do have Teresa Bleda for the fact that I think the takedowns are going to be the difference maker in the fight. But if Fernandez is able to outlast a big storm, she could end up the winner by decision.
I do think Bleda is going to be able to get enough top control and not work a lot in some of those positions. Though I do think she's going to have to work to get out of some submissions if she is deep in them. But if Bleda could just be that heavy fighter on top, you don't waste a lot of energy if you're just holding a half control or top mount in that top position. So I do agree with you. I have Bleda in the matchup. But again, if she loses this, what are we going to do? Because she was that hyped up prospect, a very young fighter at that too. And I do think she's going to need experience. So this is a really good matchup for both fighters, I think.
A get-right fight at flyweight. Matt Bleda looking to go 5-0 against Brazilian fighters in her career. Gabi Fernandez all of a sudden looking back and saying, hey, I beat Yasmin Lucindo by knockout in my pro debut, and Lucindo's now matched up with the thirst trap on the Instagram, Polyana Viana. So a big time fight right there, Matt. But both of us in the matchup going with Czechia's own Teresa Bleda to get the win. Some big time fights on this card, including a co-main event between Joaquim Silva and Arman Tsarukyan. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say,
let's get into it.